Welcome. If you're trying to, get to grips with a complex topic quickly, you're in the right place.
Exactly.
Today we're diving into a really important discussion happening in Ghana, all about how the country pays for its roads.
Hmm.
And what's really kicked this off is an open letter to President John Dramani Mahama that's been doing the rounds online.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's quite direct, isn't it?
It really is. It offers a pretty strong critique of the current system, but also, crucially, puts forward a different idea.
So our mission today, if you like, is to unpack that letter. We want to understand the arguments, what's wrong with the current road tolls, according to the letter, and what this alternative suggestion actually involves.
Right, get the full picture. Okay, so let's start with the context. The letter mentions the recent abolition of the e-levy, the electronic levy.
Yes, that's an important starting point.
The letter actually calls that decision bold and people-centered. So it seems like it was seen as a positive move, maybe restoring some trust.
That seems to be the framing, yes. A step towards fairness. And it definitely sets the stage for this whole road funding debate, doesn't it? Removing one levy naturally leads to questions about others.
Like road tolls.
Precisely. The e-levy's removal kind of creates this space, this moment, to look again at how things like roads are funded. The letter uses this context quite effectively.
And it dives straight into the road tolls with some pretty sharp criticism.
It doesn't pull any punches, no. The core argument is that the current toll system is fundamentally unfair.
How so? Who does it hit hardest, according to the letter?
Well, it argues it disproportionately burdens lower-income people. Teachers, drivers, market traders, artisans, people who often have to live further out from city centers because it's more affordable.
And they're the ones commuting in every day, paying those tolls.
Exactly. And the letter paints a really vivid picture of their daily reality. It's not just the money.
Right, it mentioned the time aspect, too.
Huge amounts of time. It talks about commutes of up to 4.5 hours for some people. Think about that.
Wow, 4.5 hours.
Yeah. Stuck in traffic, waiting at toll booths. And it mentions the knock-on effects, like kids having to eat breakfast in the car.
That really brings it home, doesn't it?
It does. And it links this daily grind to bigger issues, health problems from the stress and pollution, lower productivity, just a general erosion of their quality of life, their peace of mind.
And then there's this contrast it draws, which is quite stark.
Mm-hmm. The contrast with who benefits.
Yeah. It points out that often the roads being maintained by these tolls serve much wealthier neighborhoods. It names places like East Legon, Airport Residential.
Cantonments is mentioned too, areas where, you see expensive cars on well-kept roads.
Roads potentially funded by the tolls paid by those struggling commuters.
That's the implication. The letter basically calls it a reverse wealth transfer. It even asks this really direct question, something like,
why should the poor fund the comfort of the privileged?
That's the one. It's a powerful rhetorical question. It frames the whole system not just as inefficient, but as, well, morally questionable.
Economically retrogressive, too, I think was the phrase used.
Yes. Economically retrogressive and morally indefensible. That's the summary of the critique.
Okay, so that's a pretty damning assessment of the status quo. But the letter doesn't just complain, right? It proposes an alternative.
Correct. It offers what it calls a smarter, more equitable solution, basically moving away from the toll booths.
So what does that look like? What are the options suggested?
It lays out two main possibilities. Option one is a small standard road levy paid when you get your annual roadworthiness certificate from the DVLA.
Okay, so linked to vehicle checks.
Right. And the second option is to integrate a road maintenance levy into mandatory vehicle insurance premiums.
So everyone pays when they insure their car.
Essentially, yes. Both ideas shift the collection point away from the physical toll booth on the road.
And what are the claimed advantages of doing it this way? Why is this better, according to the letter?
Several key points. First, it widens the net, Instead of just toll road users paying, all vehicle owners contribute. So it expands the tax base.
Makes sense.
Second, it argues this distributes the cost more fairly. Doesn't matter if you live in the city or countryside, or if you use toll roads often, or not everyone with a vehicle chips in.
And the big one for commuters, I suppose. No more toll booth delays.
Exactly. It tackles that huge issue of time wasted sitting in traffic at toll plazas, less congestion, smoother journeys, a better experience overall.
The letter also included some numbers, didn't it, about potential revenue?
It did, yes.
Hmm.
It tries to quantify the financial side. It cites DVLA records showing over 3.2 million vehicle registrations. That's new ones and renewals back in 2022.
Okay.
And based on that, it estimates that even a pretty modest levy, say 50 gonacetes per vehicle,
Just 50 CDs.
yeah, just 50 CDs per vehicle annually could raise around 160 million gonacetes.
Wow. And how does that compare to what the tolls were bringing in?
Well, the letter states that road tolls generated about 72 million CDs in that same year, 2022.
So potentially more than double the revenue.
Potentially, yes. Significantly more revenue, without what the letter sees as the social costs and unfairness of the toll system. It's framed as a much more efficient and modern approach.
It's not just about the money then, it's about how the money is raised.
Absolutely. It's presented as a fundamental shift, moving from a model that hits essential workers hard to one where the responsibility is shared much more broadly across society.
And the letter uses some strong language here, calling the proposal a social justice intervention. Why that specific term?
I think that phrasing really underscores the core argument about fairness. The idea is that the current tolls are unjust because they disproportionately burden the poor.
Right.
So by switching to a broad-based levy, you remove that specific burden. You alleviate the daily financial strain, the lost time, the stress on lower-income commuters. It's about tackling inequality through infrastructure policy.
So it connects road funding directly to wider social equity concerns.
Exactly. It suggests our choices about infrastructure aren't just technical or economic. They have real social consequences. Who pays? Who benefits? These are social justice questions, according to the letter.
Interesting perspective. And the letter kind of wraps up with this call to action aimed at the president.
Yes, it ends on quite an aspirational note. It frames this whole situation as a big opportunity for President Mahama.
An opportunity to do what specifically?
To reshape Ghana's approach to road funding, to move away from what it calls that regressive burden on the poor,
And
towards a progressive model of shared responsibility, a system where everyone contributes fairly. The letter talks about a legacy.
A legacy of what?
Of shifting from taxing poverty to empowering equity. It's a call for policies that, recognize the sacrifices ordinary people make just trying to get to work every day.
So summing up this deep dive then, we've really seen this core tension laid bare, haven't we?
Definitely. On one hand, the absolute need to fund and maintain vital road infrastructure. That's undeniable.
But on the other hand, the arguments presented in the letter about the current toll system being unfair, inefficient, and having significant negative impacts, especially on lower income groups.
Precisely. And then there's this proposed alternative, a broad levy tied to vehicle ownership, not road use, presented as a potential solution that could be both financially stronger and much more equitable.
It certainly leaves us with something to think about. A kind of provocative thought, perhaps.
Which is?
Well, just thinking more broadly about how we fund any public infrastructure. What are the ripple effects of different models? Who really carries the cost in the end? And what does a truly fair system for paying for these essential services actually look like?
That's the fundamental question, isn't it? What does fairness look like in practice when it comes to public goods? Definitely food for thought.